Ah, hello, dear friends. Today I would like to share a place from my youth that I am very, very nostalgic for. The village of Pulloxhill, where I grew up as a child between the ages of, I believe, around 1989 through to 2001. Pulloxhill is a very, very small village in the Bedfordshire countryside. As you can see, this is one of the entrances to it. And you have rolling countryside all around. One of the true villages still around. One that you could walk from one end to the other at a pace in about 20 minutes. I believe it has a population of only around 800. This is my first time looking back at the village for a very, very long time, and already I can see differences. These buildings on the left-hand side, these new builds, they weren't there at all. It used to be farmland and farmhouses, but this is a part of the village I didn't go to that much. But here is a crossroads where you can go either that way towards a main road that takes you to either Luton, the town of Luton, London Luton Airport, some of you may be familiar with, or the town of Bedford, which was the birthplace, I think, of John Oliver and the like. It's claim to fame. But here we have the High Street of Pulloxhill, which is just the singular stretch of road that cuts through the heart of the village, and then you have the odd bit of street and lane running off the central piece. I quite like how this has all been taken on a sunny day. You can really see some of the lovely old houses. Got a bit of a mix there from council on the left and right, and then the occasional old building, I think, coming up on the right in a moment. I think here on the right, I think there used to be an old, yes, where that barn was, that used to be an old vegetable wholesalers, where you'd go and pick up your fruit and veg, your groceries, your green groceries, from the local market. Lovely buildings though, aren't they? Lovely houses, some of these on the right hand side. And here you have the village pub. It was, I don't know what's going on with that. Oh, there we go. Just took a while to load the majesty of the cross keys. So this pub is one of, well, it was one of two pubs in my childhood. It's now the only one. But behind it is a huge field where people could put up caravans and go camping. I have a lot of memories of village fetes and fairs being held behind the Cross Keys pub and staying over for parties where people had brought a tent and we would sleep under the stars. And then on the left-hand side, as you can see, there's a sign for the lower school that we'll have a look at the moment. We've got a little garage here. It used to be a garage, not a dealership. But I'll go up here for a moment because, again, a key focal point of village life for me. Oh, the weather suddenly turned. I just noticed that the capture is 2009 for these off streets, but the main road is 2011, which is strange. But there is the entranceway to my primary school, my lower school. Interestingly, Bedfordshire, Mid-Beds, is one of the only counties that had a three-tiered schooling system of primary, middle and upper. I believe a lot of the other schooling systems in the country are primary and secondary. But you can see in the background, can't you, lots of allotments and green spaces as well. Just, you are never that far from the countryside. Rolling hills as far as the eye could see. So we'd walk to school. It would only take 10 minutes to walk down the road to get to our school. And then you've got a few houses that way, just as a little offshoot. A few friends used to live there, so sometimes we would stay there after school as we were waiting for my parents to pick us up from school. This building here on the right used to be, oh, there we are, back to daylight, 2021, sorry, not 2011. This building used to be the village shop and post office. A very small shop. I would come down and I would purchase my bazooka bubble gums or bubbly bubble gums and your trading cards and stickers and magazines and comics from the shop. And then opposite these barn buildings and farm buildings, we have the village green. Again, another centre point for village life. I have lovely memories of, as a child, dancing around the maypole. At May, on the May Day, we'd put a maypole, which is a long pole that had coloured ribbons off it, and each person would grab a coloured ribbon, and you'd do different dances where you'd alternate around each other, and eventually it would plait or crisscross the pole in colourful fabric. And then, as we head up the high street, you can see the little hill that goes up round the back. It curls around just to go right past the newer Pulloxhill sign there. I think Pulloxhill literally meant to pull oxen up a hill. So a farming community up in the hills of Bedfordshire. But you have this little stretch of road that curls up past round the green and goes up a hill. You can see, I used to remember speeding down on my bike down this little hill at what used to feel like 1,000 miles an hour, but actually looking back on it on Google Maps, it looks a very puny hill. Again, new builds that weren't there before, but here is a historic little building called the Shelter. There's a Domesday plaque there because Pulloxhill was one of the first villages, I think, to be listed in the famous Domesday census. I think one of the first censuses of the country. The Shelter used to house a teeny tiny little shop that, again, acted like a little bit of a tuck shop. You could get your sweeties and other things from. Wasn't a shop for very long though. And then behind there you have a recreation ground, and again the rolling fields behind the church that look out onto a big part of Bedfordshire. So if we go around here, which I think Google Maps has decided it's too tight to squeeze. Down here you could imagine trying to drive a car there though, couldn't you? That little choke point there in the middle of the pink house in the road. A little tight, so you might have to turn around and go back to the high street and come back around again. Used to walk around these parts a lot because, like I said, the recreation ground was around the back that used to have swings and climbing frames. Used to play rounders, which, for those of you who are not English, rounders is basically baseball. The English equivalent of baseball. And we have more charming English village houses here. I always like this. Look at the signs. We've got somebody's got a very characterful front door. Hogwarts Wonderland. I think I know who lives there actually, but I'm not going to bring that up on a video. So you take it right down there and you head down towards Greenfield and Flitwick, where your mainline train stations are to take you down to London. You have basically the central part of the village here. That phone box, I remember I got up to a lot of shenanigans in as a kid. You used to ring up the operator and ask for silly businesses from the operator, the automated machine that used to operate, and I remember getting in trouble because we used some foul language as children to the operator, and then I got scared because it said the police were being sent, and I ran home and cried, and that was the closest I ever got at the age of 10 or 11 to being a rebel or being a bit rude, and never did it again. And this is my home, this is where I used to live. It's just that front bit, the hedgerow denotes another house. It was just a semi-detached there, so it was quite a small house there, just what a small front. It was a decent sized home to grow up in, 4 bedrooms I think, and used to be a front garden there, didn't used to be the whole driveway, but then I used to cycle down this close, and we used to play football or chase or tag on the street. It's a very nostalgic, idyllic memory where, you could have such a quiet village and a road that you used to be able to play on the street and then shout car whenever the odd car was coming along, and then all stand on the side of the road as you waited for it to go past, and then carried on playing again once the car had passed on. Very fond memories. Now, I can tell that this is old. When is this? 2009? Look, okay, so yes, this is the other side of where we tried to get to, so that's just... Oh, it looks like it will let us go that way. But again, up there you've got a private drive that looks over some stunning scenery. But I can tell this is old because there are now houses. I know for a fact there are houses in this pub garden. This pub garden doesn't exist anymore because this pub doesn't exist anymore. So the checkers, as you can see, as it was so close to the house that first time and being driven around the car park and thinking it was highly dangerous, very scary. And then, back in that little car park behind there, it's one of those pubs where if you actually look at the width of it, the bar kind of took up half of the space, so it was very cramped in there. It didn't take a lot to feel very busy. Now you have the Church of St. James, an old Norman church, a very old church, lovely grounds. Behind this church is the most stunning view. I'll superimpose the view over the screen now for you, just so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about. But on a clear day, even not a clear day, it is the most incredible, relaxing view. My dad used to take us, myself and my sister, to the front of the church where you had these little faces, these little gargoyle-esque faces on the side of the door, and we would, as kids, we'd want to kiss the faces to say hello. So it was almost like a kind of routine or a tradition. Whenever we went for a walk, we'd have to stop off and kiss the faces. Then you have Church Road, which of course builds on the church here on the left. Is a big part of my history. It's the village hall. Small village hall, looks very small here, but there was actually a pretty decently sized stage in there. And I used to belong as a kid to the amateur dramatics company, the Pulloxhill Players. And it was a huge creative outlet for me. I was bullied quite a lot as a child at school, and didn't really fit in brilliantly well. And one of my forms of escape was acting and drama. And I absolutely loved having this company. And actually what's interesting is that you had about 2 or 3 kids my age, very young, early teens or even younger. And then the rest were older adults, sometimes much older adults. So it was this great little mix. And there is the rectory where I used to go for piano lessons as well. So a lot of my creative core and soul was formed along this very road. 2 buildings very close to each other. My best friend used to live up here on the left, and then I always remember opposite this water tower, this huge structure that isn't quite in keeping with the rest of the village. Absolutely dominates the landscape. I always felt that if you went miles away from Pulloxhill, you would always see the water tower staring at you, and that's how you always knew where home was, because it's almost like a huge beacon. But you can see beyond it, can't you, how Bedfordshire is an interesting county. It's a tiny county. Like the other side of it there, you had you've got this big hill there, and I remember one day it snowed so heavily that we went sledding down that hill behind these trees you can't see, but the drop off is really steep. We found a discarded car bonnet, a metal car bonnet, and me and a friend got on it to use it as a sled. And he jumped off really quickly because I think he was switched on quicker than I was, and I went down faster and faster because it was a sheer metal bonnet, and of course with no friction whatsoever against snow, I got propelled 100 miles an hour down the hill and flew off the ditch at the bottom, landing very heavily in the ditch below. Might have broken a finger or 2. But this is the tail end of the village, as you can see, just sweeping countryside as far as the eye can see. There used to be a tree stump along this bank on the right hand side that when my father and sister, we used to go on walks on a Sunday, say, or if mother was not around, we would go for these walks, and there was a tree stump that we used to sit on, and again it was something that we had to go to. It was something we had to go and visit. I don't know if it's here anymore on this on Google Maps. I think would have gone past it if it was there, because now we've got a very long road all the way to Highbury House here. Technically we're outside of Pulloxhill now, but it still counts because there's nothing here. It's just an extension of Pulloxhill. You can't get to it in any other way other than Pulloxhill. But Bedfordshire is this tiny, tiny county. I think it's the only county in England that is double landlocked, where you have to go through 2 counties to in any direction to get to the sea, at least, get to the coast. And a lot of people aren't too familiar with it. Whenever I used to tell people I was from Bedfordshire, they'd ask where that was, and then the only way they would recognise it is if you told them it was where Luton was and Luton Airport. So a lot of people might fly into the country or leave the country from. But I'm always so grateful for these. I think my love of nature in part comes from, as you can see, these huge sweeping landscapes of countryside. Not a particularly built-up area. Lots of green, lots of trees, lots of opportunity to just go wandering through endless father's meadows and countryside. I enjoyed it hugely. So this was a slightly indulgent walk through my old village. Thank you for joining me for a place of my youth.